The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the dense forests of the Land of Fire. The village of Kanahagakure, nestled within the towering trees, buzzed with the usual evening activities. Merchants packed up their stalls, shinobi returned from missions, and children played in the streets, their laughter echoing through the narrow alleys. But beneath the surface of this peaceful scene, a tension simmered, a tension born of whispers and rumors. Tales of a forgotten clan, the Kugatsu, had begun to resurface, and with them, the legend of their ancient art, the manipulation of chakra strings to control puppets with unparalleled precision. The Kugatsu were said to have vanished decades ago, their techniques lost to time. Yet, as the winds carried the scent of change, it seemed their legacy was far from forgotten. In the heart of the village, a young shinobi named Renji sat atop a rooftop, his piercing green eyes scanning the horizon. His dark hair, tied back in a loose ponytail, swayed gently in the breeze. Renji was no ordinary ninja, he was the last known descendant of the Kugatsu clan, though he had only recently discovered this truth. His journey to uncover his heritage had been fraught with danger, and tonight, he felt the weight of his lineage more than ever. Beside him sat Ayame, a kunoichi with fiery red hair and a sharp tongue. She was his closest friend and confidant, though their relationship was often a storm of bickering and banter. Ayame had no ties to the Kugatsu, but her loyalty to Renji was unwavering. Together, they had trained relentlessly, honing their skills in preparation for the challenges ahead. Renji's fingers twitched slightly, the faintest glimmer of chakra threads extending from his fingertips. He had spent years mastering the art of puppet manipulation, though his techniques were still far from the legendary prowess of his ancestors. His puppet, a sleek, humanoid figure named Kurogami, stood motionless beside him. Its wooden frame was reinforced with steel, and its joints were lined with hidden blades. Kurogami was both a weapon and a shield, an extension of Renji's will. Ayame, on the other hand, relied on her mastery of fire-style jutsu and her agility in close combat. Her crimson eyes glowed with determination as she glanced at Renji. "You're brooding again," she said, her tone teasing but laced with concern. "Thinking about the Kugatsu?" Renji nodded, his gaze distant. "The scrolls I found in the archives mentioned something about a seal of binding. It's supposed to be the key to unlocking the full potential of the Kugatsu techniques. But there's more to it than that. I can feel it." Ayame frowned, her playful demeanor fading. "You think someone else is after it?" Before Renji could respond, a sudden rustling in the trees below caught their attention. In an instant, both shinobi were on their feet, their senses heightened. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in dark robes and wearing a mask adorned with intricate carvings. The air grew heavy with an oppressive chakra, and Renji's instinct screamed danger. The masked figure raised a hand, and a swarm of chakra strings erupted from their fingertips, lashing out like whips. Renji reacted instantly, his own strings intertwining with the attackers in a deadly dance. The clash of chakra sent sparks flying, illuminating the rooftop in bursts of light. Ayame leapt into action, her hands weaving a series of hand seals. "Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu," she shouted, launching a barrage of fiery projectiles at the assailant. The figure dodged with unnatural speed, their movements fluid and precise. Renji gritted his teeth, his chakra surging as he directed Kurogami into the fray. The puppet's blades gleamed in the moonlight as it struck with deadly accuracy, but the masked figure countered with ease, their own puppet, a grotesque, spider-like construct, emerging from the shadows to meet Kurogami head-on. The battle raged on, each strike and counterstrike a testament to the combatant's skill. Renji's chakra strings hummed with energy as he manipulated Kurogami with increasing speed and precision, but the masked figure's control was masterful, their puppet moving with an almost sentient awareness. Ayame's flames illuminated the battlefield, her attacks forcing the figure to divide their attention. Yet, despite their combined efforts, the masked assailant showed no signs of faltering. "Who are you?" Renji demanded, his voice strained with effort. The figure tilted their head, their mask obscuring any expression. "A harbinger," they replied, their voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance. "The Kugatsu's legacy belongs to the shadows. You are but a pawn in a game you cannot comprehend." With a final, devastating strike, the masked figure's puppet shattered Kurogami's arm, sending splinters of wood and metal flying. Renji staggered back, his chakra strings flickering as he struggled to maintain control. Ayame moved to his side, her eyes blazing with defiance. "We're not done yet," she growled, her hands forming another set of seals. But before she could unleash her attack, the figure vanished into the darkness, their parting words lingering in the air. "The seal of binding will awaken what was meant to stay buried. Prepare yourselves, for the forgotten shall rise once more." As the echoes of the battle faded, Renji and Ayame stood amidst the wreckage, their breaths heavy and their bodies bruised. The encounter had left them with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear: the legend of the Kugutsu was far from a mere myth. Renji clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. "We need to find the seal before they do," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. Ayame nodded, her usual sarcasm replaced by a rare solemnity. "Whatever this is, we'll face it together. But don't think for a second that I'm letting you hog all the glory." The moon hung high in the sky, its pale light casting an eerie glow over the village. Somewhere in the shadows, the Forgotten Clan's legacy stirred, and with it, a threat that could unravel the very fabric of the shinobi world. Renji and Ayame's journey had only just begun, and the strings of fate were tightening around them. The stage was set for a conflict that would test their strength, their bonds, and their very identities. The last puppeteer and his fiery companion would need to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. For in the darkness, the strings of the Forgotten Clan were beginning to move, and the puppets of war were poised to dance. The moon hung low over the hidden leaf village, casting an eerie glow on the streets below. Naruto Uzumaki stood atop the Hokage monument, his orange jacket flapping in the night breeze. Beside him, Shikamaru Nara leaned against the stone, his shadow stretching long and thin. The two had been discussing the recent resurgence of the Forgotten Clan, a mysterious group of puppeteers whose strings of chakra had begun to weave chaos across the land. In Part 1, they had barely managed to thwart an attack on the village, but the enemy had retreated, leaving behind more questions than answers. Now, as the tension thickened, a new threat loomed on the horizon. "We can't keep playing defense," Naruto muttered, his fists clenched. "They're too unpredictable. We need to find their base and shut them down for good." Shikamaru sighed, his usual calm demeanor tinged with unease. "It's not that simple. Their puppets are unlike anything we've seen before. They don't just use chakra strings, they manipulate the environment itself. And if what we've heard is true, they're not working alone." Naruto turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Before Shikamaru could respond, a sudden explosion rocked the village. Flames erupted near the training grounds, and the distant sound of clashing metal echoed through the air. Naruto's eyes narrowed. "They're back," he growled, leaping off the monument with Shikamaru close behind. As they raced toward the chaos, they found Sakura Haruno already engaged in combat. A massive puppet, its wooden limbs reinforced with glowing chakra, swung a spiked mace at her. She dodged with precision, her fists crackling with chakra as she countered with a devastating punch that shattered the puppet's arm. But the fragments didn't fall, they hovered in the air, reassembling themselves into smaller, more agile puppets. "They're adapting," Sakura shouted, her voice strained. "I can't keep up with their regeneration." Naruto didn't hesitate. He formed a shadow clone, sending it charging toward the puppets. The clone unleashed a barrage of Rasengan attacks, each one obliterating a puppet, but more kept emerging from the shadows. Shikamaru, meanwhile, used his shadow possession jutsu to immobilize a group of puppets, but their chakra strings seemed to resist his control, snapping free with alarming speed. "This isn't working," Shikamaru muttered, his brow furrowed. "We need a new strategy." As the battle raged, a figure appeared on a nearby rooftop. It was a young woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, her hands glowing with intricate chakra threads. She smirked as she manipulated the puppets with effortless grace. "You're stronger than I expected," she called out, her voice cold and mocking. "But you're still no match for the Forgotten Clan." Naruto glared at her. "Who are you? What do you want?" The woman's smirk widened. "I am Ayame, the last true heir of the Forgotten Clan. And what I want is to see this village burn." Before Naruto could respond, Ayame raised her hands, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. The earth cracked open, and massive wooden constructs emerged, puppets the size of buildings, their eyes glowing with malevolent energy. The team scattered as the puppets began their assault, their movements synchronized and deadly. Sakura leapt onto one of the puppets, using her chakra-enhanced strength to tear through its wooden exterior. But the puppet retaliated, its arm transforming into a blade that sliced through the air. She barely dodged, her heart racing as she realized how outmatched they were. Naruto, meanwhile, summoned multiple shadow clones, each one wielding a Rasengan. They attacked in unison, but the puppets' defenses held firm, their chakra strings weaving a protective barrier. Shikamaru, ever the strategist, noticed something peculiar. The puppets' movements were too precise, too coordinated. It was as if they were being controlled by a single mind. He turned to Naruto. "We need to take out Ayame. She's the key to their control." Naruto nodded, his determination unwavering. "Got it." Cover me. As Naruto charged toward Ayame, Shikamaru and Sakura worked to create an opening. Shikamaru used his shadow possession jutsu to bind one of the larger puppets, while Sakura delivered a powerful blow to its core, shattering it completely. The distraction gave Naruto the chance he needed. He leapt into the air, his Rasengan glowing brightly as he aimed it directly at Ayame. But just as he was about to strike, a new figure appeared, a man with a scarred face and a cloak adorned with the symbol of the Forgotten Clan. He intercepted Naruto's attack with a chakra-infused blade, the force of the collision sending Naruto sprawling backward. "Not so fast, brat," the man growled. "You'll have to get through me first." Naruto gritted his teeth. "Who the hell are you?" The man smirked. "Name's Kuro. And if you think Ayame's the only threat, you're in for a rude awakening." The revelation sent a chill through the team. Ayame wasn't the mastermind, she was just a pawn. The real threat was Kuro, and his presence signaled a deeper, more dangerous conspiracy. As the battle intensified, the team realized they were facing more than just puppets, they were up against an ancient clan with secrets that could shake the very foundations of the ninja world. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru regrouped, their faces grim. "We need to work together," Naruto said, his voice steady. "If we don't, we're not walking away from this." Sakura nodded. "Agreed. But we need to be smart. These puppets are too strong to take head on." Shikamaru's eyes narrowed as he formulated a plan. "We'll use the environment to our advantage. Naruto, you create a diversion. Sakura, you and I will target their weak points. If we can disrupt their chakra flow, we might be able to disable them." The team moved into action, their coordination a testament to years of trust and experience. Naruto unleashed a barrage of shadow clones, drawing the puppets' attention. Sakura and Shikamaru used the chaos to their advantage, targeting the puppets' joints and chakra cores. Slowly but surely, they began to turn the tide. But as the battle raged on, a sense of unease lingered. The Forgotten Clan's true motives remained shrouded in mystery, and the appearance of Kuro hinted at a betrayal yet to come. The team knew this was only the beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. The dense forest outside the Hidden Leaf Village was eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke moved cautiously, their senses heightened as they followed the faint trail of chakra left behind by the mysterious puppeteer they had been pursuing. The air was thick with tension, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. They had already faced two of the Forgotten Clan's puppeteers, each more dangerous than the last, and now they were closing in on the third. But something felt different this time. The chakra trail was erratic, almost as if it were leading them into a trap. Naruto's hand instinctively went to the kunai holster at his thigh. "Stay sharp, guys. This doesn't feel right," he muttered, his blue eyes scanning the shadows. Sakura nodded, her fists clenched and glowing faintly with chakra, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Sasuke, ever the silent observer, kept his Sharingan active, the crimson tomoe spinning slowly as he analyzed their surroundings. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a figure emerged from the shadows, landing gracefully on a low-hanging branch. The newcomer was a young woman, her long, silver hair cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall. She wore a dark, form-fitting outfit adorned with intricate patterns resembling puppet strings, and her piercing violet eyes glimmered with a mix of curiosity and malice. In her hands, she held a pair of chakra-infused wires, their ends glowing faintly as they snaked through the air like living tendrils. Well, she said, her voice smooth and mocking. "The legendary Team 7, gracing me with their presence. I'm flattered." She tilted her head, a sly smile playing on her lips. "But I'm afraid you're a bit late to the party." Naruto stepped forward, his voice firm. "Who are you, and what do you want with the Forgotten Clan's puppets?" The woman chuckled, her laughter echoing through the trees. "My name is Kiyomi, and I'm not here to answer your questions. I'm here to test your strength. Let's see if you're as good as they say." Without warning, she flicked her wrists, and the chakra wires shot forward like lightning, aiming straight for Naruto's chest. Naruto reacted instantly, leaping backward and forming a shadow clone to intercept the attack. The clone was sliced in half by the wires, dissipating into smoke, but Kiyomi was already on the move. She darted through the trees with inhuman speed, her wires lashing out in all directions. Sakura lunged forward, her fists slamming into the ground and creating a shockwave that uprooted several trees, forcing Kiyomi to retreat momentarily. "She's fast," Sasuke observed, his Sharingan tracking her movements. "But not fast enough." He activated his Chidori, the crackling energy illuminating the forest as he charged toward her. Kiyomi smirked, her wires weaving together to form a shield that absorbed the Chidori's impact. The force of the collision sent Sasuke skidding backward, his expression darkening. "Is that all you've got?" Kiyomi taunted, her wires retracting and coiling around her arms like serpents. "I expected more from the Uchiha prodigy." Naruto gritted his teeth, his frustration mounting. "We're not done yet." He formed a Rasengan in his hand, the swirling energy growing larger as he charged toward her. Kiyomi's eyes narrowed, and she crossed her arms, her wires forming an X-shaped barrier. The Rasengan collided with the barrier, the force of the impact sending shockwaves through the forest. For a moment, it seemed like Naruto's attack would break through, but Kiyomi's wires held firm, and she pushed back, sending Naruto flying into a tree. Sakura rushed to his side, her hands glowing with healing chakra. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Naruto nodded, wincing as he got to his feet. "Yeah, but she's tougher than she looks. We need to work together if we're going to take her down." Sasuke joined them, his Sharingan still active. "She's using her wires to manipulate the battlefield. If we can disrupt her control, we might have a chance." Kiyomi watched them from a distance, her expression unreadable. "You're not as coordinated as I thought," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. "But I suppose that's to be expected. After all, you're just a bunch of kids playing at being heroes." Her words struck a nerve, and Naruto's eyes flashed with determination. "We're not playing, and we're not kids. We're ninja of the hidden leaf, and we're going to stop you, no matter what it takes." Kiyomi's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold resolve. "We'll see about that." She raised her hands, and the forest around them seemed to come alive. Trees twisted and bent, their branches snapping like whips as Kiyomi's wires manipulated them like puppets. The ground beneath their feet shifted, roots erupting from the soil and lashing out like tentacles. The team scattered, each member focusing on avoiding the attacks while trying to find an opening. Naruto created a swarm of shadow clones, their combined efforts keeping the roots at bay. Sakura focused on destroying the manipulated trees, her punches shattering them into splinters. Sasuke, meanwhile, used his fire style, great fireball technique to incinerate the roots and branches, creating a path toward Kiyomi. But Kiyomi was always one step ahead. Her wires danced through the air, deflecting Naruto's clones and intercepting Sasuke's attacks. She moved with a grace that was almost hypnotic, her every motion calculated and precise. It was clear that she was testing them, probing their weaknesses and exploiting their mistakes. As the battle raged on, Naruto noticed something strange. Kiyomi's attacks were relentless, but there was a pattern to them. She was focusing most of her attention on Sasuke, as if she had a personal vendetta against him. "Sasuke, watch out," Naruto shouted as Kiyomi's wires closed in on him. Sasuke dodged just in time, his Sharingan allowing him to predict her movements. "She's after me," he said, his voice low. "But why?" Kiyomi's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, a flicker of emotion crossed her face. "You Uchiha are all the same," she spat. "So arrogant, so sure of your superiority. But you're nothing without your precious Sharingan." Sasuke's expression darkened, and he charged toward her, his Chidori crackling with energy. Kiyomi met him head-on, her wires clashing with his attack in a brilliant display of sparks and light. The force of the collision sent both of them flying backward, but Kiyomi recovered quickly, her wires lashing out once more. Naruto and Sakura joined the fray, their combined attacks forcing Kiyomi to divide her attention. But even as they pressed their advantage, it was clear that she was holding back. There was something she wasn't telling them, something that tied her to the Forgotten Clan, and to Sasuke. As the battle reached its climax, Kiyomi suddenly disengaged, leaping back to a safe distance. "You're stronger than I expected," she admitted, her voice tinged with grudging respect. "But this isn't over. The Forgotten Clan has plans that you can't even begin to understand. And when the time comes, you'll wish you had stayed out of this." With that, she vanished into the shadows, leaving the team battered and confused. Naruto clenched his fists, his mind racing with questions. Who was Kiyomi, and what did she want with Sasuke? And more importantly, what was the Forgotten Clan planning? As they regrouped, Sasuke's expression was grim. "This isn't just about puppets anymore," he said. "There's something bigger at play here, and we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg." Naruto nodded, his resolve hardening. "Then we'll just have to dig deeper. No matter what it takes, we're going to uncover the truth, and stop the Forgotten Clan before it's too late." But as they set off into the forest once more, the weight of Kiyomi's words lingered in the air, a reminder that the stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. The strings of the Forgotten Clan were tightening, and Team 7 was caught right in the middle. The tension in the air was palpable as Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru stood at the edge of the crumbling ruins of the Forgotten Clan's ancestral temple. The moonlight cast long shadows over the cracked stone, and the faint hum of chakra strings vibrated in the stillness. They had come this far, following the trail of the enigmatic puppeteer, Kaido, who had unleashed chaos across the Hidden Leaf village. His puppets, infused with forbidden jutsu, had left a trail of destruction, and now they were closing in on him. But something felt off. The mission had been too straightforward, too easy, and Naruto's instincts were screaming that they were walking into a trap. As they stepped into the temple's central chamber, the ground beneath them trembled. The walls shifted, revealing hidden mechanisms, and suddenly they were surrounded by dozens of lifeless puppets, their wooden faces frozen in eerie smiles. Kaido stood at the far end of the room, his hands glowing with chakra strings that connected to the puppets. His expression was calm, almost pitying. "You're too late," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The strings of fate are already in motion." Naruto clenched his fists, his eyes narrowing. "We're not here to listen to your riddles, Kaido. Whatever you're planning, it ends here." He surged forward, his Rasengan forming in his hand, but before he could reach Kaido, the puppets sprang to life, their movements unnervingly precise. Sakura and Shikamaru leapt into action, their teamwork seamless as they fended off the puppets. Sakura's fists shattered wood with every strike, while Shikamaru's shadow binding techniques immobilized several puppets at once. But for every puppet they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The battle raged on, the stakes growing higher with each passing moment. Naruto managed to break through the puppet line, charging toward Kaido with determination. But as he swung his Rasengan, Kaido's hand shot up, and Naruto froze mid-air, his body suspended by invisible chakra strings. "You still don't understand, do you?" Kaido said, his voice cold. "This isn't about power or revenge. This is about survival. The Forgotten Clan was erased from history, our legacy stolen, our people scattered. I am merely restoring what was taken from us." Naruto struggled against the strings, his mind racing. "If you wanted to restore your clan, why attack the village? Why hurt innocent people?" Kaido's expression darkened. "Because the Hidden Leaf was complicit in our destruction. They turned a blind eye when our enemies came for us. Now, they will pay the price." With a flick of his wrist, Naruto was flung across the room, crashing into a pillar. Sakura and Shikamaru rushed to his side, but Kaido's puppets closed in, forcing them to defend themselves. As the fight continued, Shikamaru's sharp mind began to piece together the truth. "Naruto, Sakura, listen to me," he said, his voice low but urgent. "This isn't just about revenge. Kaido's using the puppets to channel a forbidden jutsu, one that can rewrite reality itself. If he succeeds, he'll erase the Hidden Leaf from existence and replace it with his own version of history." Naruto's eyes widened. "We can't let that happen. But how do we stop him?" Shikamaru's expression was grim. "We need to cut the strings, literally. If we can sever his connection to the puppets, we can disrupt the jutsu. But it won't be easy." The trio regrouped, their strategy shifting as they prepared for a desperate counterattack. Naruto created shadow clones to distract the puppets, while Sakura focused on breaking through their defenses. Shikamaru, meanwhile, began weaving his shadow techniques, aiming to ensnare Kaido and disrupt his control. But Kaido was always one step ahead. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a massive puppet, its body adorned with ancient seals. The puppet moved with terrifying speed, its attacks forcing Naruto and Sakura on the defensive. Shikamaru's shadows were severed before they could reach Kaido, leaving them vulnerable. The situation grew dire as the puppet's attacks intensified. Sakura took a brutal hit, her body slamming into the wall with a sickening crunch. Naruto's clones were being destroyed faster than he could create them, and Shikamaru's chakra was running dangerously low. Desperation set in as they realized they were running out of options. "We can't keep this up," Sakura shouted, her voice strained. "We need a new plan." Naruto gritted his teeth, his mind racing. Then, an idea struck him, a risky, reckless idea, but their only chance. "Shikamaru, can you hold him for just a few seconds?" Shikamaru nodded, though his exhaustion was evident. "I'll try." With a burst of effort, Shikamaru extended his shadow, catching Kaido off guard and immobilizing him for a brief moment. It was all Naruto needed. He channeled his chakra, forming a massive Rasen Shuriken, and hurled it toward the massive puppet. The attack connected, shattering the puppet's core and severing Kaido's connection to it. The room shook violently as the forbidden jutsu began to unravel. Kaido's calm facade finally cracked, his eyes widening in shock. "No. This can't be happening." He screamed, his voice filled with desperation. But the victory was short-lived. As the jutsu collapsed, the temple began to crumble around them. Naruto rushed to Sakura's side, helping her to her feet, while Shikamaru struggled to maintain his footing. Kaido, now unhinged, lashed out with his chakra strings, his attacks wild and unpredictable. "You think you've won?" he roared. "You've only delayed the inevitable. The Forgotten Clan will rise again, and you will all pay for your ignorance." The team fought their way toward the exit, their bodies battered but their resolve unbroken. As they reached the temple's entrance, Naruto turned back, his eyes meeting Kaido's. "You're wrong, Kaido," he said, his voice steady. "The past can't be changed, but the future is ours to shape. And we'll protect it, no matter what." With that, the temple collapsed, burying Kaido and his puppets beneath the rubble. As the dust settled, the trio stood in silence, the weight of their victory heavy on their shoulders. They had stopped Kaido, but the cost had been high. Sakura's injuries were severe, and Shikamaru's chakra was nearly depleted. Naruto, though physically unscathed, felt the emotional toll of the battle. The revelation about the Forgotten Clan's tragic history lingered in his mind, a reminder of the complexities of the shinobi world. But as they made their way back to the village, Naruto's determination burned brighter than ever. They had faced the strings of fate and emerged victorious, and he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The air in the Hidden Leaf village was thick with tension as Naruto and his team regrouped after the shocking revelation that the Forgotten Clan's puppeteers were not only alive but had infiltrated the village's highest ranks. The stakes had never been higher. The enemy's plan to manipulate the Five-Cage Summit and plunge the shinobi world into chaos was now clear, and time was running out. With only 3 days until the summit, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke knew they had to act fast. The Forgotten Clan's puppeteers were masters of their craft, their strings invisible and their tactics unpredictable. To stand a chance, the team would need to push their limits, forge new alliances, and uncover a weakness in their enemy's seemingly flawless techniques. The first step was training. Naruto gathered his team at a secluded training ground deep within the forest, where the dense canopy provided cover from prying eyes. "We've got to level up," he said, his voice firm. "If we go in like we are now, we're dead." Sasuke nodded, his Sharingan already active as he analyzed the terrain. Sakura cracked her knuckles, her medical ninjutsu and chakra-enhanced strength ready to be tested. But this time, they needed more than brute force. They needed strategy. Naruto began by summoning shadow clones, creating a small army to simulate the overwhelming numbers they would face. Sasuke took the lead, weaving through the clones with his signature speed, but even he struggled against the sheer volume of attacks. "We need to think like them," Sakura said, dodging a clone's punch. "Their strings are their strength, but they're also their weakness. If we can disrupt their control, we can turn the tide." Naruto grinned. "Then let's get creative." The team spent hours experimenting with new tactics. Naruto combined his Rasengan with wind-style techniques, creating a swirling vortex that disrupted the air currents and made it harder for the enemy to manipulate their strings. Sasuke used his fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu to set the battlefield ablaze, forcing the enemy to adapt to the environmental hazards. Sakura focused on precision, using her chakra scalpel to sever the invisible strings whenever she detected their faint vibrations. It was grueling work, but with each passing hour, they grew stronger and more coordinated. As night fell, the team received an unexpected visitor. Shikamaru, his face grim, approached with a scroll in hand. "I've been analyzing the Forgotten Clan's movements," he said. "They're not just targeting the cage. They're after the tailed beasts." Naruto's eyes widened. "What? Why?" Shikamaru unrolled the scroll, revealing a map marked with red dots. "They're using the chakra from the tailed beasts to power their ultimate weapon, a puppet capable of controlling the entire shinobi world. If they succeed, it's game over." The revelation sent a chill through the group. The stakes had just escalated. Determined to stop the Forgotten Clan, Naruto and his team sought out allies. They reached out to Gaara, who immediately pledged his support. "The Sand Village will stand with you," he said, his voice steady. "But we'll need more than just numbers. We need a plan." Together, the group devised a strategy to infiltrate the Forgotten Clan's stronghold, a hidden fortress deep within the Land of Iron. The plan was risky, but it was their only shot. The infiltration began at dawn. Naruto and Sasuke led the charge, their combined power tearing through the fortress's outer defenses. Sakura and Gaara provided support, using their abilities to create barriers and heal injuries. The Forgotten Clan's puppeteers were formidable, their strings slicing through the air like razor blades. But the team's training paid off. Naruto's wind-style techniques disrupted their control, while Sasuke's Sharingan allowed him to predict their movements. Sakura's precision strikes severed the strings, leaving the puppeteers vulnerable. The battle reached its climax in the fortress's central chamber, where the Forgotten Clan's leader awaited. A towering figure cloaked in shadows, he wielded a massive puppet that seemed to move with a mind of its own. "You're too late," he sneered, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The tailed beast's chakra is already mine." Naruto gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing with determination. "Not if we have anything to say about it." The final fight was a whirlwind of chaos and destruction. The leader's puppet unleashed a barrage of attacks, its movements too fast to follow. Naruto and Sasuke fought side by side, their combined power pushing the puppet to its limits. Sakura and Gaara focused on disrupting the leader's control, using their abilities to create openings. The environmental hazards of the chamber, collapsing walls, falling debris, and raging fires, added to the intensity, forcing the team to adapt on the fly. As the battle raged on, Naruto noticed something. The leader's strings were connected to the puppet, but they were also connected to the chamber itself. "He's using the environment to amplify his control," Naruto shouted. "If we destroy the chamber, we can weaken him." The team shifted their focus, targeting the chamber's supports with everything they had. The walls began to crumble, the ceiling collapsing around them. The leader's control faltered, his puppet slowing as the strings were severed. With one final, coordinated attack, the team brought the leader down. The puppet shattered, its pieces scattering across the chamber. The leader fell to his knees, his strings limp and useless. "You've won," he muttered, his voice filled with bitterness. "But the strings of fate are not so easily broken." Naruto stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "We'll break them if we have to. The shinobi world doesn't belong to you." As the team emerged from the fortress, battered but victorious, they knew the fight was far from over. The Forgotten Clan's influence still lingered, and the 5-cage summit was just hours away. But they had bought themselves time, and in that time, they had grown stronger. Together, they would face whatever came next, their bonds unbreakable and their resolve unwavering. The strings of the Forgotten Clan had been cut, but the battle for the future had only just begun. The battlefield was a storm of chaos and fury, the air thick with the clash of chakra and the cacophony of steel meeting steel. Naruto Uzumaki, his 9 tails cloak blazing like a golden inferno, darted across the shattered terrain, his Rasengan spiraling with raw power. Opposite him, Kaido, the last puppeteer of the Forgotten Clan, stood amidst a swarm of mechanical marionettes, their strings glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. The two warriors locked eyes, their determination unyielding, as the fate of the shinobi world hung in the balance. Kaido's puppets surged forward, their movements a deadly dance of precision and malice. Naruto met them head-on, his shadow clones erupting from him in a burst of smoke, each one wielding a Rasengan. The clones charged, their attacks a blur of motion, but Kaido's puppets countered with uncanny agility, their strings slicing through the air like whips. One by one, the clones were dismantled, their forms dissipating into smoke, but Naruto pressed on, his resolve unshaken. He leapt into the air, his Rasengan growing larger with each passing second, and slammed it into the ground, sending a shockwave that obliterated a dozen puppets in an instant. But Kaido was far from finished. With a flick of his wrist, the remaining puppets reassembled themselves, their broken parts fusing back together with a metallic clang. "You'll have to do better than that, Uzumaki," Kaido sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. He raised his hands, and the puppets' eyes glowed crimson, their movements becoming faster, more erratic. Naruto gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He needed a new strategy, and fast. Meanwhile, Sasuke Uchiha, his Sharingan spinning with deadly focus, engaged Kaido's lieutenant, a shadowy figure known only as Kuro. The two clashed in a flurry of kunai and shuriken, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Sasuke's blade met Kuro's in a shower of sparks, the force of their collision sending shockwaves through the air. Kuro smirked, his dark chakra swirling around him like a living shadow. "You're strong, Uchiha," he taunted, "but not strong enough." He vanished in a puff of smoke, reappearing behind Sasuke with a dagger aimed at his back. But Sasuke was ready, his Rinnegan flaring to life as he teleported out of harm's way, countering with a Chidori that crackled with lethal energy. Kuro dodged, his movements almost too fast to follow, but Sasuke was relentless. He unleashed a barrage of fire-style jutsu, the flames roaring through the air like a dragon's breath. Kuro countered with water-style techniques, the two elements colliding in a hissing cloud of steam. The battlefield became a maelstrom of fire and water, each combatant pushing the other to their limits. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he realized Kuro was toying with him, testing his strength. Enough games, Sasuke growled, his voice low and dangerous. He activated his Susanoo, the massive, skeletal warrior forming around him with a deafening roar. Kuro's smirk faltered for the first time as the Susanoo's blade descended, forcing him to retreat. Back with Naruto, the battle had reached a fever pitch. Kaido's puppets were relentless, their attacks coming from every angle. Naruto's nine-tails cloak flickered as he took hit after hit, but he refused to fall. He summoned a massive Rasen Shuriken, its spinning blades humming with power, and hurled it at Kaido. The puppeteer barely managed to deflect it with a wall of puppet shields, but the force of the explosion sent him staggering. Naruto seized the opportunity, charging forward with a flurry of punches and kicks, each strike infused with chakra. Kaido countered with his own barrage of attacks, the two warriors locked in a deadly dance of fists and fury. But Kaido had one last trick up his sleeve. With a roar, he unleashed his ultimate technique, the Forbidden Puppet, a massive, grotesque marionette that towered over the battlefield, its eyes glowing with malevolent energy. The puppet strings lashed out, ensnaring Naruto and lifting him into the air. Naruto struggled against the bindings, his chakra flaring as he tried to break free. Kaido laughed, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "This is the end, Uzumaki. Your strings are mine to control." But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a roar of defiance, he tapped into the full power of the nine tails, his cloak blazing brighter than ever. The strings binding him began to fray and snap, and with a final burst of energy, he broke free, landing on the ground with a thunderous crash. Kaido's eyes widened in shock as Naruto charged forward, his Rasengan growing larger and larger until it was a swirling vortex of pure energy. "This ends now," Naruto shouted, slamming the Rasengan into the forbidden puppet with all his might. The explosion that followed was blinding, the shockwave sending both combatants flying. When the dust settled, the forbidden puppet lay in ruins, its broken pieces scattered across the battlefield. Kaido struggled to his feet, his body battered and bruised, but his spirit unbroken. "You're stronger than I thought," he admitted, his voice tinged with respect. "But this isn't over yet." He raised his hands, and the remaining puppets surged forward, their movements even faster and more deadly than before. Naruto braced himself, his body aching but his resolve unwavering. He knew he had to push past his limits, to tap into a power greater than anything he'd ever known. Closing his eyes, he focused on the bond he shared with Kurama, the Nine Tails. "Kurama," he whispered, "I need your help." The beast's voice echoed in his mind, deep and resonant. "You've come far, Naruto. But this is your fight. I'll lend you my power, but you must be the one to wield it." With a roar, Naruto's chakra surged, his nine tails cloak transforming into a shimmering, golden aura. His eyes glowed with a fierce light as he charged forward, his movements faster and more powerful than ever. Kaido's puppets were no match for him now, their attacks deflected with ease as Naruto tore through them like a whirlwind of destruction. Kaido's confidence wavered as he realized the tide had turned. "Impossible," he shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. "You can't defeat me." But Naruto was unstoppable. With a final, earth-shattering Rasengan, he slammed into Kaido, the force of the impact sending the puppeteer flying. Kaido crashed to the ground, his body broken and defeated. The battlefield fell silent, the only sound the crackling of flames and the distant rumble of thunder. Naruto stood tall, his golden aura fading as he looked down at his fallen foe. "It's over," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Your strings can't control me anymore." Kaito looked up at him, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and acceptance. "Perhaps you're right," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "But the Forgotten Clan will never truly be defeated. Our legacy will live on." With those final words, he closed his eyes, his body going still. Naruto turned away, his heart heavy but his spirit unbroken. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. As he rejoined Sasuke and the others, he knew they would face even greater challenges in the days to come. But for now, they had earned a moment of peace. The strings of the Forgotten Clan had been severed, but the bonds of friendship and determination that held them together would never break. The battlefield was a chaotic storm of chakra and destruction, the air thick with the scent of burning earth and the metallic tang of blood. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light casting an eerie glow over the ruins of what was once a thriving village. Naruto Uzumaki, battered and bruised, stood at the center of it all, his cerulean eyes blazing with determination. Across from him, the enigmatic puppeteer, Kurotsuchi, manipulated his final creation, a monstrous amalgamation of wood and steel, its joints creaking with every movement. The strings of chakra connecting Kurotsuchi to his puppet glowed faintly, a testament to the immense power he wielded. This was the culmination of their struggle, the final clash that would decide the fate of the Forgotten Clan and the future of the shinobi world. Naruto's breathing was ragged, his orange jacket torn and singed from the relentless onslaught. His shadow clones had been decimated, and Kurama's chakra was running dangerously low. But he couldn't afford to falter now. Behind him, Sakura and Sasuke fought valiantly against the remnants of Kurotsuchi's forces, their own strength waning with each passing moment. Sakura's fists crackled with chakra as she delivered devastating blows, while Sasuke's Sharingan spun wildly, his sword flashing in the moonlight. They were all at their limits, but they had come too far to give up. Kurotsuchi sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You're persistent, I'll give you that. But this ends now, Uzumaki. The Forgotten Clan will rise again, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." With a flick of his wrist, the massive puppet lunged forward, its jagged claws slicing through the air. Naruto barely managed to dodge, the force of the attack sending him skidding backward. He gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He needed a plan, something to turn the tide. But Kurotsuchi's puppet was unlike anything he had ever faced, fast, relentless, and seemingly indestructible. As the puppet closed in again, Naruto's thoughts turned to his friends, his village, and the countless lives that depended on him. He couldn't let them down. Not now. Not ever. With a roar, he channeled the last of Kurama's chakra, his body enveloped in a golden aura. He dashed forward, meeting the puppet head-on. Their clash sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield, the ground cracking beneath their feet. Naruto's fists collided with the puppet's claws, each strike reverberating with raw power. But despite his efforts, the puppet showed no signs of weakening. Sakura's voice cut through the chaos. "Naruto, aim for the strings. Without them, he can't control it." Her words sparked a realization in Naruto's mind. Of course, the strings were the key. He shifted his focus, his eyes locking onto the glowing threads connecting Kurotsuchi to his creation. But getting close enough to sever them would be nearly impossible. The puppet's attacks were relentless, and Kurotsuchi was no fool. He kept his distance, using the puppet as both a weapon and a shield. Sasuke, sensing Naruto's struggle, appeared beside him in a blur of motion. "I'll create an opening," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. "Be ready." Without waiting for a response, Sasuke activated his Rinnegan, his chakra flaring as he summoned a massive Susanoo. The spectral warrior swung its sword, forcing the puppet to stagger backward. Naruto seized the opportunity, darting forward with blinding speed. But Kurotsuchi anticipated the move, his puppet twisting unnaturally to block Naruto's path. The impact sent Naruto sprawling, his golden aura flickering. "You're out of tricks, Uzumaki," Kurotsuchi taunted, his puppet looming over Naruto. "This is the end." But as the puppet raised its claws for the final strike, a sudden burst of energy erupted from Naruto's body. The ground beneath him cracked, and the air seemed to hum with power. His eyes narrowed, his resolve hardening. "No," he said, his voice steady. "This is just the beginning." In that moment, Naruto tapped into a power he had never fully understood, the essence of the Sage of Six Paths. His golden aura intensified, transforming into a radiant cloak of pure energy. The puppet's claws struck, but they shattered against the barrier of chakra surrounding Naruto. With a single, fluid motion, he reached out and grasped the glowing strings, his chakra severing them with ease. The puppet froze, its massive form collapsing to the ground in a heap of wood and steel. Kurotsuchi staggered back, his eyes wide with disbelief. Impossible. How? But Naruto didn't give him time to recover. In a flash, he was before Kurotsuchi, his fist connecting with the puppeteer's chest. The impact sent Kurotsuchi hurtling backward, his body slamming into the ruins of a nearby building. He struggled to rise, but the fight had left him. His strings were cut, his puppet destroyed, and his dream of reviving the Forgotten Clan lay in ruins. The battlefield fell silent, the echoes of the final clash fading into the night. Naruto stood tall, his golden aura dissipating as exhaustion threatened to overtake him. Sakura and Sasuke approached, their expressions a mix of relief and pride. "You did it," Sakura said, her voice soft but filled with admiration. Sasuke nodded, a rare smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Not bad, idiot." As the sun began to rise, casting its warm light over the battlefield, the trio took a moment to reflect. The Forgotten Clan's legacy had been laid to rest, but the scars of their conflict would remain. The shinobi world had been forever changed, their actions reshaping the delicate balance of power. But amidst the destruction, there was hope, a hope that their sacrifices would pave the way for a brighter future. In the days that followed, the village began to rebuild, its people united by the bonds forged in battle. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood as symbols of resilience, their names etched into the annals of history. And though the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, they faced it together, their spirits unbroken. The strings of the forgotten clan had been severed, but the bonds of friendship and determination would endure, guiding them toward a new dawn.